do is go to the main scene. Hi, everybody. How you doing? I finally got this thing working. It would not be one of my shows without some technical difficulties. How the heck are you? Lilith is with us, and Purple Rhymes with
Hello?
Orange, and Bionic Dance is with us. And if there's anybody else that would like to come in, Casey, if you're here, I was looking for your Twitter handle and I was not finding it. I'm doing something wrong. If you wanted to come in, let us know. Um, so how's everybody? How's everybody doing? What's up?
No,
Great.
Aw.
No. Yeah.
I'm not awake. I'm sorry.
Well, I had to be awake already, so I'm great. Got my lemon water.
What part of the world are you in, though? It matters.
Yeah, I'm on the West Coast.
Oh,
So
me too. Okay.
yeah, it's well, and I have a cat and I'm taking care of my sister's cats because she's traveling for work. So at 6 a.m. they're like, hey,
Yeah,
Dude.
I've actually made a habit of holding a stuffed animal over my face because if I don't, Columbia's gonna come in and start pawing at my nose. Like, I don't know what it is about the tip of my nose, but she loves to go for it when she wants breakfast.
Yep, yeah, that sounds about
Yep.
right.
I've got the good kitty.
Aww.
In 2 years, the only time he's ever woken me up is when I'm having a nightmare.
Oh, mine has done that at least once. She took a flying leap onto my stomach. It worked.
No, when there's been 3 times I've had nightmares, and he starts pulling at my beard until I talk to him.
Oh,
Oh,
lucky you. You've only had nightmares 3 times.
I have woken up screaming before, but mostly because Columbia decided to use my stomach as a stepping tool or stepping stool. And I don't know what it is about this cat. She has unerring aim. If she wants to go for nipples or clit, she will do it, but not intentionally. Like the number of times she's climbed up on me while I'm lying in bed and plants a foot just on the wrong part of my crotch.
well, I don't know that you can really press charges for sexual assault on that one.
Oh,
Well,
man.
definitely assault in
Okay.
some fashion. Ow.
Yeah, oh, poor thing. Yeah, it's admittedly of the 2 cats of my sister's that I'm taking care of. One is a big cuddle monkey and he likes to, sit down so that I can use you as a cushion. But the other one, he has very pointed paws. So, and he's the one who's really pushy about the food. So he's doing that, if I walk across your neck 3 times, you'll have to wake up. Like,
Oh, man. This one, for all the stuff she pulls on me, she's pretty good about the sleeping.
oh,
This is the only one who, of her own volition, i.e., not in a bombed out shell of a house in the middle of winter at minus 10 degrees inside, comes under the covers with me.
aw.
And then she'll get in the crotch of the knee and she'll fall asleep in there. And then it's one of these things where if I have to take a pee, I'm like, oh man, do I really need to do this right now?
Columbia
she's-
will not get under the covers with me, and that's because when I first got her, she did it, but I don't remember what I had for dinner. I quite accidentally gave her a Dutch oven, and she will not get under the covers with me anymore.
Oh.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Oops.
Well, Diane, I'm glad to hear you say that, because Sloth Girl keeps saying that I just pamper Sammy-san way too much. Because if she's
Okay.
parked on my leg, I feel guilty about getting up.
Man, I tell you, as far as the cats are concerned, you cannot pamper them too much. You can never pamper them enough.
I feel horribly guilty when I move when they're sitting on me, but sometimes eventually you have to move before your body falls asleep and you
Or
Haven't
you
been-
initiate some sort of public health hazard.
Yes.
definitely that too.
Yeah, Sloth Girl, those are the Nestea bottles I use. Instead of buying bottles of Nestea at the store all the time, I bought a few of them, kept the bottles, and then bought powdered tea. And I make up the tea and I'll pour it into the bottles. So one bottle from the store at $1.10 maybe or something like that versus $5 for 7 gallons. So which
Good
one am I
deal.
going to do?
Actually, I've got a set of the exact same bottles, about 6 or 8 of them.
Okay, I've got a
And
dozen of them over
I
there.
picked up a hot brew iced tea maker at a garage sale for $5.
Okay,
So I've been known to do something similar with Gatorade bottles.
okay then.
Like Gatorade and Kool-Aid usually, or Tang. I'll do that.
The gym is all too happy to sell me Gatorade, but it's just a little dear for me.
Yeah, the electrolyte thing does tend to get a little bit ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. And then they've got something that they call muscle milk. I have no idea what that is. Kate, have you ever heard of that?
No, I have no idea what the frill that is.
They want $4 a
I'm a
bottle
little
for that
scared
shit.
of it.
Say
I
again?
mean, the name alone makes me go.
I'm expecting something white and of an uncomfortable consistency, honestly, with a name like that.
Yeah, it's. I think it is white, unless the bottles it comes in are white. For the hell of it, I'm looking this up right now. Okay, what I'm seeing is
I missed the name there. What were you saying?
muscle milk, whatever the hell that shit is. Oh,
I'm just picturing someone milking their biceps.
it's a protein shake.
Okay. Well,
And it,
Well, I am definitely protein.
take careful there. 15 will get you 20.
no.
Oh
No,
my!
I do well with animals and small children. Teenagers and adults, not so much.
No,
You know, babies have a tendency to fall asleep on me. I don't know what it is, but apparently I soothe babies.
A sleeping baby is a good baby. That means
Yes.
they're not vomiting on you and they're not shrieking at that pitch that only dogs can hear, but
Yes.
also somehow makes your head explode.
Yeah, that. Well, I was going to say the unfortunate thing is I must have been a dog because I can always hear that shrieking. Well, I decided, and this is for realsies and everything. It takes something really, 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 really special to be a parent. I didn't have it, and I knew it, so I got the tubes tied. So I did not go and have kids because it was my duty. The way you'll hear this term, Lilith, if you keep hanging around me. The female slimy bastard. This is the person that everyone else called my mother. Once told me that it was me and my wife at the time. It was our duty to have kids. We're both looking at her with, "What the hell are you?" And I'm thinking of the way you were a mother. Was that your duty to do what you did to the two of us? Forget it. I'm thinking it. I'm not saying it.
No one wants to have that argument, but
'Cause-
that's a very Catholic attitude. Very, every sperm is sacred, you know?
Yeah, and then what you were
I don't know,
saying
I-
Putting
earlier,
that song in my head.
what you were saying
Put
earlier,
out some
Lilith.
kind of a parent vibe, because from my early 20s to my mid 40s, every serious relationship I had was because women who wouldn't have considered dating me had kids and then decided I'd make a good father.
Yeah, you know, a friend of mine, I was talking to a friend of mine about how I need a wingman because I'm terrible at breaking the ice when it comes to dating. And he was like, well, you know, I have a friend who's
Shut
looking
up,
for
Florian.
someone. I could totally set you up with her. There's one catch. She has an 11-year-old. And I was like, I mean, I like kids, but I like being able to give them back to their parents.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Because I have some friends who have wonderful kids, and I like hanging out with the whole family, but, you know, in small doses.
Yeah.
I don't know, Kate. I think for you, a 10 or 11-year-old might be just about right, because, you know, you got all your 80s toys. You can get them into that stuff.
That's true.
You got
Plus,
stuff
they're
you can play
potty trained.
with.
Yeah, Lilith, you were talking earlier about crisis in the conversions and everything. When we were just talking here, that came to my mind. That may have been part of what happened to my sister. both of us were horribly abused when we were kids, and she really got it because she was a girl, of course, and
Of course.
girls can get. She was accused of being pregnant at one point with nothing to back it up, and it got so bad that she finally just took out of the house and stayed with a friend for a couple of days, and ended up. Okay, she was training thoroughbred horses at the time.
Okay.
So she worked at a racetrack. And are you familiar with what a tack room is?
Yes.
She lived in a tack room.
Mm-hmm.
She had her college refrigerator, the 1 cubic foot or whatever it was, a bottle of 4 Roses, a hot plate, slept on hay bales, and she was happy.
Well, yeah, because she was away from all the crazy people.
Yes.
There are only 2 decent books of the Bible, in my opinion: Ecclesiastes and parts of Proverbs. And one of the things in Proverbs says, "Better, a dinner of herbs with peace than a fatted calf with fights and discord." It's like, yeah, simple is fine as long as I'm not living with crazy making people.
So, yeah, I do have to wonder if some of that abuse that she put up with didn't key her in. As I said before, she was quite a bit more Catholic than I was, even when she was professing to be a Catholic. So I wonder if that helped.
I remember a clip used in someone's deconversion video where it showed how they change your identity, and it was people putting up signs of, I was drug deal addicted, blah 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 blah, whatever. They label themselves with these horrible things, and then they flip it over.
Yeah.
Now I'm loved and saved and forgiven. And that's the thing, is they have to degrade you in order to come in as the savior. But people who are already vulnerable and who already feel, quite possibly completely unjust shame, but still very understandable, they can wield that shame and say, we're going to come in and make you clean and make you forgiven, and it's God will do all this for you, and then you think your identity is becoming this more positive thing, and you latch onto it.
Well, I wonder how they would try to shame me, because most of the things that I've heard religion talk about where it's like, this is horrible and you're unclean is shit. I'm like, I enjoy that. I'm happy. I may even be proud of it. So how dare you try to make me feel ashamed of it?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure they could find something, some little crack in my armor where it's like, oh, I am actually a little ashamed of that. But I don't think it would hit any of their usual tropes. The things that they're like, this is what everyone should be ashamed of.
Absolutely.
I think if there's anything I'm ashamed of, it'll be so out there, so outside of their paradigm that they'd never be able to figure out what it is to get in under that armor.
Well, and that's the idea, is they want to come in as though they're prescient and come in and say, we understand this shame. And of course, the ideal situation for them is a society in which everyone is taught to be ashamed of the things that they want them to be ashamed of, so they can come in and, fix them all.
See, I wonder
Oh,
if they're
Lord.
aware of doing it. Do they realize that they're being manipulative, that they're basically conning you, or do they honestly believe you should be ashamed?
Yes.
Right.
That-
I was born.
Go
I was
ahead.
born in a Catholic family, and one of my favorite quotes is from Dr. Seuss: "Of never do anything you're ashamed of, and never be ashamed of anything you do." Although I know my family would prefer that I was ashamed of a lot more and did a lot less.
I can think of 1 or 2 things that you should be ashamed of if you do them, but mostly it's stuff like murder.
Yeah. No, there are truly a couple of things worthy of being ashamed of, but I didn't do any of them. And part of it is that because your identity has to be as first the sinner, then the saved, you have to go around and find something to be ashamed of. And if you're a child, or if you're a vulnerable person, or if you're just anything other than, fully actualized me, and I know who I am and I'm proud of it, you can find something to be ashamed of.
Well, okay, there's this fellow who's coming by the atheism booth that I help staff on Saturdays, and he kept trying to insist that at their core, all humans are just really, really bad people. But sure, maybe we do good things, but deep in our hearts, we're horrible, and that's why we need to be saved. And he made me I made a deal with him because he wants to meet up and discuss it, sort of at a coffee shop, more one-on-one sort of thing. And he insisted that I read Romans to see what he was talking about. And I read it, and it didn't say anything he hadn't already said to me. So I don't know why he thinks it would convince me that humans are horrible to start with. As far as I'm concerned, humans are better than that. Humans are okay for the most part and occasionally do horrible things. And so that's exactly the reverse of what he was trying to peddle. And I'm like... So I told him, look, if we're going to meet up, fine, I'll read Romans if you read Stranger in a Strange Land.
Oh, good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. So
now you made me want to reread that.
He hasn't contacted me yet. He hasn't actually said, yes, let's meet up. So,
and that's really good because you're trained into having an aversion for books like that. I think so many Christians, even if they didn't agree with it, if they read just the first chapter of God is Not Great, they would have such a better understanding of atheists and what we're not, which is what all their pastors tell them. But there's that fear and that I can't look. But that's the doctrine of original sin, which I touched on in my first video, which is just... everything is horrible and it's all your fault, so that, and then God and the salvation message makes something, as Purple Fox put it, the death of Jesus Christ means nothing unless you first believe it should have been you.
Yes.
I've actually never heard that one before.
I've heard that in a number of different ways. And as a matter of fact, there was a sect of early Christianity, I forget which one it was. Was it a sect of Christianity that said sin as much as possible because that's what you need to get into heaven?
Let sin increase so that grace may increase.
That's
kind of a thing.
Yeah, so they encourage depravity and hedonism such that they could get into heaven. Or at least I'm thinking I'm remembering that. Maybe it's just wishful
I don't
thinking.
know, in a weird way that almost sounds like Satanism.
I don't think it was that you were supposed to sin more because that was how you got into heaven, but so that you sinned so that Christ didn't die for nothing.
Yes, basically speaking, that was
it was to increase the grace all the more. Kind of a weird.
It turns out that
you were supposed to sin more.
Oh, dude, whoever just came in, you gotta mute. Seriously,
yeah,
you
we've
gotta
got an
mute.
echo going here.
Okay.
We're good?
I mean, if it turns out that not sinning means that what Christ did was unnecessary, that means that what Christ did was unnecessary. I mean, what was the point if we don't? I mean, if not doing it, or if not sinning means he didn't need to do it, then why did he do it?
Yeah, and there's one that I forgot to, I didn't necessarily forget to ask during the show because it would have opened us up for another hour at least. These kids, as far as I see, discourage biblical scholarship of the type that, say, Bart Ehrman or... why
100%.
would they discourage the biblical scholarship? Because I would think that they would want to know their words that much better. Or is it that they're so afraid that they're going to...
They would want authentic scholarship if anything they were teaching was true.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't, so they don't.
So they know?
Yeah, basically, that's why you have this entire superstructure. Is Sloth Girl trying to say something?
Donna?
No. Okay, sorry. There was just a background thing. Anyway, basically, that's why you have this entire superstructure of evangelical schools and evangelical homeschooling and evangelical college, so that the mind is trained that these are the only authentic sources of information. And you have these scholars or so-called scholars who, at these often unaccredited universities, their job depends on maintaining a certain ideological perspective. You see the same thing more dramatically with like the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter, but it's the same thing with these, Liberty University type places where this is our perspective. We will research everything in a way such as to, build up our perspective, and nothing that comes that contradicts the Bible, as they would put it, what it really means is their hyper-literalistic interpretation of the Bible,
Right.
Certain doctrines, none of that can be true. And so you get into that conspiracy thinking where, the scientists are all trying to trick us into evolution because they don't want God to exist. And, but then you get this other thing where the devil is tricking, scholars into questioning the reliability of the gospel. And again, that comes back to authority. The Bible has to be your ultimate authority, at least officially. And if it's not accurate, then it can't be an authority. So it has to be accurate. So we're right back to that key place of I will defend this position and I will make everything fit, even if I have to hammer it in with a jackhammer.
That's the hill I'm going to die on, even if that hill was a crater.
But ignorance definitely goes hand in hand with obedience. It's so much easier to get people to go along with the Bible
Brilliantly
if they don't
put.
know the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't know if you guys watch Apologia, who I still want to call Pologia based on how that's
he's
spelled.
a sweetie. I love that man.
But he has that little sort of like meme and jingle that he puts up every now and then. For the Bible tells me so. That whenever someone makes that argument, he'll play that little snippet of that song, and it's true. It's just people are like, well, the Bible said it, I believe it, therefore.
Well, that's like Hovind all over again. It's what is it now? The Bible said it. I believe it. That settles it.
That settles it. Yeah.
Right.
No, I would say that was brilliantly put. What was that phrasing you just used? But it's true that ignorance and obedience are tied in and enforced, because you want people to be, and it's kind of interesting. I think what they do with evolution is very instructive, because they don't just lie to you about the evidence for evolution. That would be one thing. But creationists go to a great deal of trouble to lie to children about what evolution is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in that argument on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's called, like, I have told people straight out, you don't understand what evolution is. Everything you're saying demonstrates. Yes, I do, and it's all ridiculous. And of course, what they have to do is use the terms that, scientifically literate people use, and redefine them all in such a way as to make their straw man of evolution more ridiculous than 6-day creationism by magic 6,000 years ago.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course, like they love to say that evolution and creation are the same thing. That like abiogenesis and evolution are exactly the same thing. And they're not. I mean, even if like a god existed and created the first amoeba or whatever, the first biological life, that's not evolution, and they can't seem to separate the two. Right? Like evolution could still happen even if there was creation.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And we were mentioning Kent Hovind before. He is a big part of that, because there have been, it's kind of interesting if you look back through like Chick tracts and through creationist propaganda, there have been different fakes that they've tried until the scientists figured out what they were doing and called them on it, and then they went to a different one. The recent one is Ken Ham with his observational versus historical bullshit that he pulled out of his ass. It's an artificial distinction. It means nothing.
Okay,
But
here we go.
Oh yeah, there you go. Cool hard logic. You need to sell us oven mitts. I know. But prior to that, and Kent Hovind is actually responsible for this one, as far as I can tell, because a lot of people used him as a source for their thing. Is he said that there are 6 types of evolution? You heard this argument?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. This is really, really important to know, because it's some creationists have stopped trying to push it because they've been called on it so many times, but the Hovind
I've heard
have
it.
not
Yeah,
stopped.
and it's very annoying.
Well, it's ridiculous because they're tying in cosmology and, astrophysics and biochemistry, but also chemosynthesis, and basically the Big Bang is a type of evolution, star and planetary formation is a type of evolution, the formation of the solar system is a type of evolution, the beginning of life is a type of evolution, and then they have that arbitrary macro-micro evolution distinction that they throw in. So
Everything evolves within its kind.
They're trying to water down the term evolution so it won't mean anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and more than that, they're trying to make sure that every piece of science, which discredits young Earth creationism, which is every kind of science imaginable, is somehow under the blanket term evolution, whether it's geology, physics, chemistry, biology, all of it is evolutionism.
It's also pushing the idea that evolution is a religion.
Right.
Every time they say the term evolutionist, I mean that they made that up. They're trying to make it sound like a faction.
Like a religion,
trying to
basically.
explain to them science is not an ideology; it's a methodology. They don't seem to understand that. Like if any of them actually had a knowledge of just vocabulary of what these words mean, it would help so much. But because they think evolution is just almost like a political party, like an evolution is like a Republican. It's this faction you've joined. It makes it so hard to talk to these people because you can't break them out of that mold.
Well, and that's the part that's deliberate. It's the deliberate that I brought back to my first point. They were deliberately taught that evolution means all these ridiculous magical things that it never did. And they were taught to think about it in this way and to create this whole ridiculous magical construct and call it evolution, so that when you come in and try and defend the actual science, everything they hear sounds ridiculous to them because they have these twisted definitions for all these words and ideas that make no sense whatsoever. And so to explain it to them, you basically need them to understand that they've bought into a ridiculous construct that someone else calls evolution that has nothing to do with the science.
And every time I see one of those pictures where they have here's a car engine or here's a cell phone that humans built, now here's the circulatory system. Clearly it's more complicated and had to have built as well, as if something mechanical and something organic are exactly the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on this earlier, Lilith, and it just stays in my mind. I wish truly that these folks would just do like the Amish did and say, okay, look, we're going to have our own little world and we're going to live in our own little Bronze Age thing with the Bronze Age medical and the Bronze Age technology. I wish they would do that, but they know better, don't they?
The Amish are allowed to reject science because they don't freaking use it to lie to everybody about science. They go and do their thing, and then they're responsible for the limited worldview, but they accepted the consequences of it.
Now, I have to admit, maybe it's a little bit mean-spirited on my part, but the fact that they have to have those little orange reflector thingies on the backs of their wagons.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just some evil part of me says, ha ha, I don't know.
I know.
I wish they all could do that. The state of Tennessee would have a much better education system immediately. Well, shit, not even Tennessee. Ohio has gone down the tubes.
Yeah.
When I was living in Minnesota, there was an Amish community there, and they actually had a debate on whether or not it would be acceptable for them to get a thresher with a gasoline engine.
Yeah.
And their final compromise was they could have the thresher with the gasoline engine, but it had to be pulled by horses because they couldn't allow any technology that moved faster than a man could walk.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that horses have this tendency to move a lot faster than a human can walk. Maybe it's just me, but one thing I've noticed, I don't know if you've been really looking at it, like in the news lately, it seems like a lot of states are passing laws that have kind of a religious basis.
Oh, I noticed, have you?
Like there's just been this rash of them lately. And I think the reason why is because they see the writing on the wall. They know that Trump's going to lose power. They know that the right wing, there's going to be this major backlash against them. So they're trying to get everything passed that they possibly can, just to make sure that their ideology is embedded, ingrained, and has to be fought before anything that's the opposite can come in.
Well, you know that they're packing the courts, right? I mean, even at the federal level.
Absolutely. I want to address this because you've all heard of, I think it was 2006, the Jesus Camp documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, there was another documentary that came out that same year. You can find it on YouTube, but it's not a YouTube documentary. It's a legitimate documentary. And I wish it had got more traction. It's called God's Next Army.
Okay, I'm going to look for it.
Yeah, okay. And this is very, very important because what you are describing, it may be ramping up in a case of desperation and backlash, but that's not how it started. This is deliberate. It has been meticulously planned for decades.
Well, you know about the Wedge document, right?
Yeah.
That's part of that too. Yeah.
But that's just part of it. This documentary actually goes over how Liberty University had basically courted all of these, small town fundamentalist homeschooling parents, funneled them into their evangelical, arms, and then funneled them through another sort of specialized program to get all these kids with this, completely isolated bubble print worldview and funnel them into positions surrounding senators and members of Congress and getting in at the ground level and surrounding these people and absolutely believing that it is their duty to take America for Jesus.
I have to admit, if the weather wasn't quite so Seattle-like, I'd already be living in the UK. Because I'm so sick of how benighted this country is. I mean, I love the fact that we've been the leader in things like entertainment, for example, because honestly, what would the US be without Hollywood? What would the world be without Hollywood? But at the same time, I would very much like to live in a place that is not so just freaking psycho.
Yeah, I wish I could run, but I can't afford to.
Yeah, if it were an option for me, I'd be living in Canada by now.
You and I both.
Well, and that's another thing. I'd be living in Canada if it wasn't so freaking cold. There's nothing wrong with Canada that warming it up and nuking Quebec won't fix.
You can't nuke Quebec. They have the good cheese. And they came up with poutine.
Okay, they speak French and they're really obnoxious. I'm sorry.
They're obnoxious, but they invented poutine, and I think they have a lot for poutine. Absolutely.
I've been
poutine is nectar of the gods.
Yes.
I found a playlist.
I've been pushing all my friends in Canada to get their legislatures to agree to a trade. That Canada will get the upper Midwest and the U.S. will get Quebec. Because Quebec's going to be pissed off no matter which country they belong to.
I love the idea where, people are talking about the entire west coast of the U.S., Washington, Oregon, and California, just all defect to Canada. Just, tell Canada, we want to be part of you instead of this shit.
We will take California, because if you go south, I believe Oregon is part of it. There's still part of that Bible Belt heartland attitude in some of the, more rural areas. But, California has the 5th largest economy in the world. You want to join up with Canada? We are legalized pot. There's, there's
California has that.
absolutely. I'm saying on a federal level, you'd have no problems. We have health care. We have, it's not that we're against war. We just don't use it as our first tactic for every fucking thing.
I think it's losing traction, but for a while there was a Calexit movement where California was like, we want to be our own country. Fuck the US, we're seceding. And I admit, I put my name on a few petitions.
I was hearing about that.
If Trump gets reelected, push to join Canada.
Yeah, it's here I go again. But I'm actually kind of happy that I've got a lot less life ahead of me than I thought I did 6 months ago. Because if all goes the way it looks like it's going, I'm not going to have to put up with a lot of that shit. And I'm happy about that.
No, Diana, we're going to keep you alive. We're not letting that happen.
If Bernie Sanders wins the nomination, which is by no means certain because they're probably going to cheat again, I actually think he'll need to surround himself by bodyguards because I'm pretty sure he would be the next president if he gets the nomination, and they'll see that their only option is to assassinate him. Now, maybe that's just me being like super paranoid.
No, you might have a point there, Kate.
But it wouldn't shock me if someone would try to come up with that idea because like there'll be no, too far left wing. We need Trump again. Bang, bang. It wouldn't shock me.
Neither would it shock me.
And
Actually,
give him your theory, Purple.
Yeah, considering the way that Trump's talked about the FBI and the CIA, I'm surprised he hasn't been shot by a member of his own security detail. And everybody would claim they know nothing about it.
I'm actually surprised myself. Yeah, it's
The CIA would clear the FBI. The FBI would clear the CIA. They go, oh.
I don't know. Yeah, I somehow feel like, I don't feel like the security guards feel like they could take him out themselves, but maybe they wouldn't run quite as fast in front of that bullet. They just missed the dive. Just thinking
about it for a second here. Nope.
Yeah, exactly. Do the soccer dive, oops, I tripped.
Well, the CIA has people on call for those kind of occasions.
I have heard.
I'm misremembering or something, but I seem to remember an article. You know how members of the First Family and I guess some members of his cabinet or whatever get nicknames by the Secret Service so they can they're get the shoulder mic. Okay,
like the president
Eagle
of
One
Searchlight
and yada
things
yada
like
yada.
that. Yeah.
Is Trump's nickname because I seem to remember hearing something about it was like the Big Baby or something that they had a really unflattering nickname for Trump.
Lord Damn Nut.
And the other thing, I've heard I'm going to call it a conspiracy theory, but maybe it's not, that some people have advanced that the Marine Guard that's assigned to the president actually has orders to put a bullet in his head if he gets too far off the rails. Which I don't.
If he reaches
that can't
for the
be true
nuke
because
code,
it hasn't happened
damn
yet.
well better.
Yeah, I mean that's the
do
thing
us
is
a favor,
I would not. It would not shock me to discover that he has decided if I'm not getting reelected, then screw it. I'm going to have the world nuked. I'm going to get that war going with Russia. We're going to start World War III because I cannot leave office. And there was an article going around that said he wanted something where he'd drop out of the race. He wouldn't seek reelection in exchange for immunity. Because he knows he's going to be prosecuted. Like the instant he leaves office, there are going to be so many indictments, and he's terrified.
Yes.
But he's done so much to put people in positions of power directly, huge, obvious conflicts of interest, just writ large. And, the Mueller report comes out and it's like, everything is fine. Nobody has to look at it. They're like, yeah, that's convincing.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah, I mean, as much as the Mueller report allegedly says that nothing happened,
right.
I seem to I saw something where they're going, if there's nothing in the Mueller report that shows Trump either colluding or being illegal in some fashion, they'd have released the whole thing already.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I thought that the original statement was that not collusion, obstruction of justice could not be ruled out. Has that changed?
No, that's in the summary.
Okay.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's the Department of Justice guy that Trump put in, gets the report, says everything is fine. We will release an edited version with, everything is fine and all the blocked out letters around it. And then that's it. Like, it's like we're supposed to believe that. And I'm going, no.
Even people in Congress with high-level security clearances are not getting the full report. Something's got to be wrong here.
Yeah, they made such a big deal about Nixon with the missing 18 minutes of tape, and yet nobody's saying anything about that. There's over 300 pages of the Mueller report that we can't look at.
Yeah.
Hashtag Heathen is like, I hope they give him a literal football and told him it was the nuke one. I don't know if you've ever seen The Mouse That Roared, but the big old bomb looked
I know that
exactly
one.
like a football. Like the bomb in that movie, what do they call it? Like the X bomb or something, actually looks like a football.
I could see Trump like from It's a Mad, Mad, Bad World riding the bomb down. Yeehaw!
No.
That was Dr. Strangelove.
Strangelove.
That's a strange love. You're right. My bad.
Yeah. No, it's a mad world. I actually tried to watch that with my dad when he was visiting recently, and it is so long. Oh my gosh. And it's nothing but bad slapstick. Like, I remember seeing it when I was little. When I was a teenager.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be, though.
And I watched it, and I was okay with it. I thought it was fun. But now, when I'm older, I'm like, I would rather watch Rat Race, the remake they did. So much better, just because it's not as interminable.
Well, Mad World was, as far as I understand, intended to be a showcase, just a shitload of cameos spliced together.
And it was that.
Definitely.
And the plot was an afterthought. Badger, hi, how are you?
Hello.
Welcome to the happy party here. Everybody, this is Bad Tempered Badger. Bad Tempered Badger, this is everybody.
Everybody?
Badger.
Man, it's been a while since I thought of that one. Okay, I'm sorry,
for some reason it keeps coming up in my chat.
Smash Mouth, and I hate that song with a fiery passion. It was in everything for a couple of years, and I've gotten so fucking sick of it. Oh my gosh, I hate that song.
You're talking about All-Star Kate?
Yes. Oh gosh, I hate that fucking song. Oh.
Hey, you're an All-Star.
Oh. Like seriously, we're talking Shatner levels. Oh.
Oh, boy. I don't know here, kids.
God. Wasn't it, Father, Theremin Trees, who said his idea of hell would be falling into a black hole while listening to William Shatner's version of the Shakespeare monologues.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, God.
On the roof.
Poke me in the ear with an ice pick.
Yeah. I would rather be fed slowly, feet first, into a meat grinder than listen to that song again.
Rock it, man.
Oh, God.
It was kind of like after Toy Story, Randy Newman did music for like every movie for about 5 years.
Yeah, I think he did.
I mean, like after Toy Story, he did like Parenthood and a few others, and I was just like this guy's voice is so weird and novel, and that's why they're doing it, like for no other reason. He's not a very good songwriter.
They even threw him into an episode of Family Guy.
Great singer. There's a difference.
They even threw Randy Newman into an episode of Family Guy where he was like the only musician to survive the apocalypse.
Left foot.
Right, but yeah, he narrates everything they do, and they're like, "Get the hell out of here."
I remember that.
Yeah,
I was so much more amused by what was it in the Orville where they said that Barry Manilow was the most underappreciated artist of humanity ever, and like they're just listening to him on the bridge of the ship and everything.
Oh,
It was
man. I hate to say it, but I actually heard Manilow live.
Wow.
My girlfriend at the time loved Barry Manilow. He came to Pittsburgh, and the darn thing was that everything was so screwed up, he ended up performing in a parking lot. I'm not kidding. He was not pleased.
Oh no.
It was, they called the place Station Square. It's on the south side of Pittsburgh. And Manilow even mentioned in his monologue after his first couple of songs, it's great here being with you, performing in this parking lot. Wow. Yeah.
I what little I've heard of Barry Manilow, I can definitely leave him. Like, I don't hate him the way I hate Smash Mouth's song, but at the same time, he's unlistenable in my world.
Oh, sappy.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kate, would you rather I put on the coffee cantata again?
Oh yes.
I don't know what's going on, but at least I missed the politics bit.
We're talking about music, and I was just agreeing with our dear Diana that we should put on the coffee cantata because give us this day our daily Bach and deliver us from Cage as we forgive those who perform 433.
By the way, I like I was saying before a couple of shows ago about how like what I want in a song in music, and how like the classical stuff seems to be all over the place and it doesn't have a definite tune. I think because I didn't have the terminology, what I need is a hook, a good hook in a song. And most classical music doesn't frickin' have it. It's just like it seems so random at times.
You get a hook that comes back that you can sort of latch onto in your mind.
Yeah.
This is that
good
song.
with that. Mozart has the hook a lot of the time, and he also keeps the rhythm that you can kind of bop your head to and go along with it. Although it looks a little silly while you're listening to Mozart. But often I find with classical, it's the same 6 songs. Like, for fuck's sake, if I have to listen to Primavera's Vivaldi Spring one more time, I'm just going to blow my head off.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, I've never seen the movie Crow. Okay, because Crow is an interesting movie. It looks like a lot of fun, and it is kind of fun when you're 10. But watching it again recently, what I realized is that it feels like someone took a whole bunch of separate stories. Like, here's 6 or 7 half-finished scripts, and we're going to try to stitch them together into one movie. And it seemed like I was watching multiple episodes of something instead of a full story. And that's what classical music feels like to me sometimes, is they said, here's an idea that I have, and here's another idea that I have, and here's another idea that I had, and I'm just going to stitch them together in one song.
Yeah.
And it didn't work for me.
No, I get it. And there are, like, I think for some people, my only argument is that there are a lot more eras and a lot more styles than you get in the 5 things that they play in the elevator all the fucking time.
Right.
And another thing is like, people say classical music when, there's like Baroque and Renaissance and yada, 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 but they mean the same thing. They mean all of that when they say classical music.
Anything.
It's going to offend a lot of pedants, but what can you do? I mean...
The darn thing, to me, it's not all the same. But then again, my mind is a different mind than that of a lot of people. And I'm sure Kate will agree when I say that. Not in a good way. Oh, my. But yeah, you were talking about Mozart. My absolute favorite Mozart happens to be the Piano Rondo in D. The one that was used as incidental music to the film Hopscotch.
Okay. All right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just watching the
I really
in the corner there. Just what?
I
don't know what they're talking about.
I've
Oh.
never heard of hopscotch. What the frell is that?
That's my reaction.
That is a film starring Walter Matthau and Glenda Jackson, I believe.
So you're saying it's probably from before I was born?
I think it might be just after. It might be. Let me look. I think it's around
right.
1980, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
All right.
But
So definitely before I was old enough to care.
yeah, Matthau plays a rogue. I think it's CIA agent, and it's set as a comedy. Where
See, the only
Okay, I
only
don't know what's
class-
going on with Sloth Girl there, but I'm hearing a lot of. I
It's
don't know.
not me.
Is too. Every time it happens, your icon pops up.
I'm
But I'm
wondering if it's feedback.
I've kind of figured out it's feedback through Donna's rig somehow. Because
Could
as
be.
you say, Kate, every time you hear that stuff, Donna's icon does the little woo 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 thing.
Mm-hmm. You ever see? I mean, because you were talking about like rogue CIA agent. Have you ever seen the movie Undercover Blues?
I have not seen that one.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's Dennis Quaid and I want to say Kathleen Turner are like CIA agents or something, but they just had a baby and they're on vacation in New Orleans. And then like their old boss shows up and says, I need you guys for a mission here in New Orleans. They're like, we're on vacation. This is maternity leave. But they take the mission anyway. And it's a hilarious comedy. So much fun.
Okay, and Hopscotch was a 1980 film.
Okay, so I was
You
four
were
through
four or
most of
five, yeah.
1980.
I wasn't
Like, I
even
was
born.
5 years old for 16 days of 1980.
Okay, there you
Uh,
go.
Yeah, because the funny thing about it was my bachelor party just before I got married. A coworker had a bunch of us over his house, and he had got a whole big porn stash and started playing the porn on the television. And between cassettes, HBO was set on channel, and it was Hopscotch, and it was a bunch of Mensons at this bachelor party. Okay, so take it from there. And we all got interested in the film.
Wait, rewind. A bunch of what?
Mensons.
Mensen?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Mensa.
we were members of Mensa.
Oh, Mensen. I was hearing a T in there.
Oh, okay.
Smarty pantses.
And then Mike got all pissed at us because we were more interested in the film than the porn that he went through all sorts of hell to go and
It's
get.
funny. You said that he had a big porn stash, which reminded me of the character Porn Stash from Orange is the New Black. They called him, he was one of the prison guards. They called him that
Oh,
because he had
right. Yeah,
this mustache that made him look like a porn star. So when you said he had a huge porn stash, it took me a second to know you didn't mean that guy.
And then that's how the piano rondo got stuck in my head because it was always behind the scenes in that film. And some
Back and
fantastic
forth with
stuff.
Porn.
Well, okay, Vibrantly Brantley, it's not that I don't like classical music exactly. It's just that they don't do it right for the most part. If we're going to
Yeah.
talk about orchestra music, right, what I absolutely love is movie scores because you get like a great theme song, and even during the action scenes, they'll like splice in that hook that I love so much. So it's not that I don't like, say, orchestral music. It's just that most of the like classical stuff that people revere so much, almost like a religion, just doesn't do it for me.
I wonder if you would go for, let's say, Stokowski or Stravinsky, the 20th century people.
Stravinsky is good.
Yes.
Okay, the only 20th century orchestral musician I remember being mentioned ever is Aaron Copland.
Oh, my word, I love Copland's work. Yes. But then again,
And
that's me.
bridges the gap.
The right people that I will listen to: John Williams, James Newton Howard, Jerry Goldsmith. Why do all these movie score guys have names that start with J? I don't know.
Maybe they got together and decided. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple that don't, but it seems like there's this preponderance of J name guys doing movie scores. I don't get it.
John Williams.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned
So
him,
I could never write a movie. Well, no, I can't write a movie score to save my life anyway.
I can't
But they
remember if
wouldn't
you
let
said
me.
John Williams or not, but it's the only one I actually know.
It's funny. I was mentioning something to someone that I had thought of a long time ago, and apparently Bill Bailey did a routine about it. And I'm like, dude, stealing my shit. Is that was it In the Hole of the Mountain King? Sounds like an evil Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yes, it does. It does.
Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, just like a snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary had a little lamb is what that is.
I like this take on the BBC News theme. Sounds like some kind of post-apocalyptic rave.
I don't know that theme.
The thing is, it's funny. If you take something major and minor and switch it up, you can end up with a totally different feeling. I had this really hilarious moment with a friend of mine. She agreed to play the piano because I was going over this Verdi song, and it's oh God, I couldn't remember it off the top of my head, but it's about this woman talking about remembering her mother being burnt at the stake as a witch.
Oh.
So it's part of an opera, so of course. So it's very dramatic, but it's also very rhythmic. The problem was she'd been playing piano a long time, and for whatever reason, she just switched into the major key right away. And I was like, wait, that's not right. And she's like, I know, I was thinking this sounds too cheerful. And I'm like, yeah, it's not Ring Around the Pyre.
Well, one song I absolutely cannot stand. I mean, for the most part, I like REM, but Losing My Religion is one of the most annoyingly depressing songs I've ever heard. Like, even without the lyrics, I just listen to the tune and I'm like, I hate this. But I found a version on YouTube that's in a major key. Someone had transposed it into a major key and it's actually listenable.
Interesting.
And I've discovered, like, I like my music cheerful. That's just all there is to it. I like cheerful music. And so I will not listen to it. Like I hated the 90s when grunge was a big thing, when alternative was a big thing. I mean, like Nirvana's, what was that famous one? Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I hate that song with the White Hot Fury of 1,000 Suns. I hate that song because it's anything but cheerful.
I don't think you'd get on very well with my music library.
Have you heard the YouTuber who did that one in a major key?
Okay.
There's a YouTuber out there who picks songs up and switches from major to minor or minor to major, and he, Teen Spirit was one of them that he did. And yeah, you get some really weird things happening when you do that switch.
Well, there's a trend of doing covers of popular music in like really weird styles. Like I actually have, my favorite band is Roxette, and there's an album out there called Baby Roxers where they did a bunch of their songs as lullabies. And sometimes I actually fall asleep to it. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Nightcore, but that one's really weird. Yeah. Where they like speed everything up and it sounds like a club song and like all of the lyrics are sung in this super high voice. It sounds like the Chipmunks. And it's just this weird style.
I've heard some, in quotes, nightcore versions where they've actually done like a whole different remix of a thing, and some where they've just taken the original and like boosted the speed 3 times and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And whenever it sounds like squeaky, monsters.
Yeah. When they actually do their own cover, it's usually better.
Fair.
Speaking of being burnt at the stake, it smells. It smells a little bit like somebody's like barbecuing a house around here. So I'm just going to go and check that I'm not on fire. Also, I need a cup of tea. So BRB.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Oh my!
Come back and tell us you're not dead, and we'll be good.
Talk about smells like around here. I don't know how the hell it's happening, but there will be the times where it suddenly smells like somebody bathed in aftershave. And it's very, very annoying. The entire floor will be permeated with that. I'm going to be
must be a
nice and
teen
call it an
boy on your
aroma. It's
floor.
really a stench. And I wish I knew where it was coming from so I could strangle the guy.
Well, it's like when you go through a store and you walk down an aisle and you pass that one person who's marinated themselves in perfume or cologne.
Oh, gods, yes.
And it's just this miasma where you're like, nobody light a match.
Quite a few of the women in this neighborhood will do that. They will bathe in the cheapest perfume they can find at Walmart.
Oh, that's unpleasant.
Wow.
Okay, now something Sloth Girl just did. I mean, It Must Have Been Love is one of Roxette's most well-known songs, which I actually find quite annoying, simply because they have a lot of other music in a lot of other styles, but they're mostly known for their ballads. So if I go on something like Spotify or Pandora, and I give them one of Roxette's like rockin'est songs, like high energy rock and roll, and ask for suggestions, I get back things like Debbie Gibson. And I'm like, that is not what I gave you. I gave you, da-na-na-na-na-na-na, and they're like, okay, well, let's give you na-na-na-na-na. And I'm like, dude, no, that's not what I asked for. Such a pain in the ass.
I have to say, I like my music sarcastic and sardonic and just generally satirical. So like Tim Minchin. I love Tim Minchin. And honestly, actually, Graydon Square, I don't know if you've heard his rap, but I've sort of become a little bit in love with atheist rap. I'm like, it just warms the cockles of my
familiar.
I'm going to be a horrible person and say that due to the neighborhood in which I live, I have come to detest rap. Because I have lived in neighborhoods over the past 30 years where gangsta rap is prevalent. And it's all this hoe, kill, the whole thing. And I can't take it.
Ass.
Say again?
Pop a cap in your ass.
Yeah, you got it. And I hate to say it because it sounds so damn racist, but that's all I hear around here.
Well, I was in the same boat for a really long time. For years, I was like, I fucking hate rap. And a lot of people were like, what, are you racist because it's all black? I'm like, no, I just don't like the sound of it. And then I realized, no, there was a time when I actually really enjoyed rap, but that was before gangsta took it over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, my most recent ex talks about the rap that came out of the UK that she dearly, I guess that's what she discovered rap with. And it's actually not all that bad.
And Weird Al has a couple of raps that I really enjoy. Like, the rap, It's All About the Benjamins. He did one it's all about the Pentiums. And it's just this nerdy ass rap that's absolutely hilarious. And I love it.
Okay, yeah.
That sounds adorable.
Yeah. I was like, what you want to do? Want to be hackers, code crackers, slackers, 9 to 5 chilling at Hewlett Packard, sitting at a desk with a dumb little placard? Yeah, paying my bills with my mad programming skills, defragging my hard drive for thrills. I got me 100 gigabytes of RAM. I never feed trolls and I don't read spam. Installed a T1 mod in my house, always at my PC, double clicking on my Miz-House. Upgrade my system at least twice a day. I'm strictly plug and play. I ain't afraid of Y2K. I'm down with Bill Gates. I call him money for short. I phone him up at home and I make him do my tech support. It's all about the Pentiums. What? Like that. There's a lot more.
Oh, that's well done. Well done.
Fun song. I love it. And so I love rap. I just can't stand gangsta.
Yeah, and I can even there's the section of Roll the Bones where the little rap thing fits in there. Not all that bad, really.
The Rush song.
Yeah, and I rather like Rush. Well, I knew about Rush when they were getting started by coming to the Agora in Cleveland. So that I was in high school when I knew about them, and I graduated high school. I hate to say it, I graduated high school before Kate was born.
Oh, well, that means before I was born too, because I just realized I wasn't even alive in 1980. there's because we were talking about religion and stuff. And I mentioned Stockholm syndrome. That was why I was thinking of Graydon Square. He actually has a song called Stockholm Syndrome that I'm putting to the side in the group chat, the Hangouts group chat.
Yay.
But the other kind of rap that's just goofy and I like is the epic rap battles of history guys. Where they have Einstein versus Newton, and they have Bill Nye the Science Guy, or no, it was Bill Nye the Science Guy versus Newton, Einstein versus Stephen Hawking, and they have all kinds of characters. It's really funny if you haven't seen it, because they add in weird historical things, and some of the characters are just silly, imaginary. I think one of the early ones someone got them to do was Genghis Khan versus the Easter Bunny, which was just ridiculous. But they had Edgar Allan Poe versus Stephen King. They had this whole one of its movie directors, but the most famous one was the Darth Vader versus Hitler.
Oh!
I would have thought that Stephen Hawking would have really good rhythm.
Yeah.
You could just set the syllables to come out in time with a metronome.
Yeah. Well, and they did that stylized thing where they auto-tuned it so it sounded really robotic, and it was really funny though. It's like there are 10 billion particles in the universe. Your mama took the ugly ones and turned them into one nerd. It's just ridiculous. It's very nasally sounding, but not really, because it's all technological and stuff. But and sometimes they have a secondary character swings in as part of the conversation, and it's very, very funny. But yeah, they just I don't know. I just love those guys, and they're coming back, so I'm really excited to see what ridiculous things they do now.
Oh my!
I have confirmed that I'm not on fire.
Oh, good.
Excellent. Very good.
That is a good thing.
Also have tea.
I'll tell you that one of the interesting things when I moved into this apartment, this was the first place I've had with an electric range, and I had to get used to it. And a couple of times, unfortunately, I guess there was a little bit of splatter over, and if grease hits the broiler, hits the burner pan, it can ignite.
Oh, Doc, I love They Might Be Giants.
And yeah, that it had been about 30 years between kitchen fires. But at least I knew what to do, It's just
well, it happens occasionally, I suppose, to the best of us.
Just put a lid on it or dump salt on it, and you're fine. But I actually prefer electric cooking now to gas, because I actually do have finer control of the temperature, believe it or not.
Well, I mean, okay, I'm sort of with you, just because I always felt that cooking with gas was just dangerous in ways that cooking electrically isn't. But I have to disagree about the temperature control, because it takes so long for the burner to either warm up or cool down that it just feels like I'm waiting too long to get the desired effect.
Okay, now what's happened with me, maybe I just got accustomed to it quickly or something, but I used to boil over and shit all over the place when I cooked with gas. And after the first 2 or 3 weeks on the electric range, I don't do that stuff anymore. That doesn't happen to me.
Well, I make a lot of stir fry, and I've got it down to a science.
Okay.
And I mean, part of it is just, okay, I've got the rice boiling. That's great. And I use a rice cooker for that. Now, here's exactly how high I need the temperature and exactly how long I need to cook the chicken while the rice is cooking. I know exactly when to throw in the vegetables and all that stuff. And it's so much easier with gas, where it's like, because the rice takes a while to cook, you start the chicken down at like 2 or 3 until the rice really starts to boil, and you crank it up to about 5 or 6, which is almost boiling, and throw in the frozen vegetables. And so the frozen vegetables keeps the chicken from burning. But at the same time, it all like it snowballs until when the rice is done, everything is cooked exactly right. Then you like throw the rice in, throw the spices in, and there you go. And that is not something I could do on an electric range.
Yeah, and
Can't do it.
stir fries are very picky about temperature anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
not mine. I
It's-
do really well with mine, but whatever.
high. Well, it's still particular, but it's high and fast, kind of with the. That actually reminds me. I found some Thai chicken broth, and I'm like, I must make proper pad Thai.
Oh my! Because I know it's not traditional. I know, don't kill me, but I love General Tso, and I need to do that over here. I haven't done it on electric yet because I make it from scratch. And I got to give that a try and see how electric General Tso would work. If I must say so myself, I don't do that bad a job of it. I use every cooking utensil in the house to do it, but it does turn out fairly well.
Okay,
I wish we
Diana,
hadn't
you have
gotten-
to do that on your cooking show because that's one of my favorites.
Okay,
I
I'm
kinda wish
going to
we
write that
hadn't
down.
gotten
I'll
on
get
this
that
topic,
done.
because now I realize I haven't had breakfast yet, and I'm hungry and want to stir fry. Oops.
I am a big fan of exploded food.
Oh yeah.
Exploded food.
Well, it's what happens when you get your food and you put it in the microwave, and then you forget how long you turn the microwave on for. It just goes
And then it goes.
inside of the microwave, and then you go into the microwave and you go, oh. mm.
Oh, I'll tell you, the first time
And you-
I
and you get a
microwave
spatula,
baked.
You
First time I
scrape the
microwave-
food off the roof. And you put it back on.
First time I microwave baked a baked potato was a very interesting thing. Put it in there a bit too long, and I ended up taking out a brick.
Oh yeah.
There are times when I love an artichoke. I don't know what it is, but artichokes are lovely. And the thing is, I don't want to wait a million years to melt the butter, so I'll often put it just in the microwave for like a minute. But the problem is that a minute's a little bit too long. I'm not sure what the exact time is to have it melted properly. So after a minute, it starts to volcano.
Yes.
Like every now and then,
yeah.
it'll just go kabam! Like someone set off a shotgun underneath it, and just this big splurt of butter will hit the ceiling of the microwave.
That's always fun afterwards when you're trying to clean it. You're like twisted upside down, trying to get in the corners so the smell of especially if you've made something with garlic, doesn't stay there for the rest of your
Oh
life.
my God.
Don't put garlic in the microwave.
Not garlic, but like if you made garlic butter and warmed it up, that kind of thing.
Hasn't it ever occurred to you people to put lids on things in the microwave?
Yeah.
No, 'cause that'll make the container explode.
Yes, it
Well,
will.
you have to vent them. You can't have them on tight.
Years
I
ago,
don't
recently
have something to
discovered.
vent like a small little thing of butter. That doesn't work.
years
So
ago
I
when
recently
I actually
Don't microwave an egg.
Definitely not. Oh god. Oh god. Now that is exploding food.
years ago when I actually worked for a living, my best friend was a coworker, and he regularly faced the firing squad at work because he would do things like microwave broccoli.
And fish? Did he do fish?
I absolutely.
Asparagus? What about asparagus?
Let's see, I don't know if John did asparagus or not. I do know that he did broccoli. I do know that he did fish. He did one of the early microwave popcorns and set it on fire.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I loved him dearly, but God, could he pull some? Well,
When I was raising teenagers, they did one of the bags of popcorn in the microwave, and apparently she double keyed it. Instead of 3 minutes, she put on 33 minutes.
Oh no.
Yeah, and they went to watch TV. The kitchen was full of smoke. We never got that smell out of that microwave. We just had to trash it.
I saw someone once
man.
try to microwave a pizza, and that was, this wasn't like a already cooked pizza. They just wanted warm again. This was, from not cooked microwaving a pizza.
Oh,
I didn't know that you could do that and get away with it.
You can't.
I didn't think
That's
so.
kind of the problem. But additionally, this was at like a LAN party I was at, and the microwave that was available in the place where this thing was organized was not a standard one. It was like a high-powered,
What a commercial.
in an instant industrial microwave.
Wow.
No.
For the time it's they put it in the thing, and set it going, and then went back out to their PC that was set up in the hall, and came back in, and it was black.
Oh.
And not only was it black, it was also on fire.
Yeah.
Hence the black.
So they came back in and went, "Oh no, my pizza." So they're just kind of looking forlornly at this blackened disc that used to be
With
pizza.
lumpy disc, yeah. Oh God!
I mean,
And someone else decided at the same event that it was a good idea to put, I think it was a pizza, in the oven, but I'm not sure. I don't know if they'd just never experienced food before, or not not experienced food that they'd had to cook themselves before, but they put it in the oven in the box.
oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
A friend of
my gosh.
ex's,
Not only did they set fire to the box, the plastic inside melted to the food.
Oh, jeez.
And,
Yeah, forget
it was
that dinner.
Decidedly inedible afterwards.
Yeah, a friend of my ex's put a frozen pizza in the oven, and after a while, there was the terrible smell and the smoking, and we pulled it out, and she went and pulled the box out of the garbage and started yelling at my ex, "Where does it say to take the plastic off?"
Probably in the
Oh,
removal
man.
packaging part.
Oh.
You need
Now the-
directions on shampoo.
Now the real
Yeah.
the real fun was the Slimy Bastards used to have a drip coffee pot. If you've ever seen the Revereware coffee pots, it's a 2-part cylinder where you have the coffee ends up down here, and then up here you have a basket for the coffee, and then you pour the water over it and it just drips through. They would always boil up a pot of water and then put it through. So he, one night, because he would always sit in the living room and watch television at like 2:30 in the morning, put water on to boil and went into the living room and fell asleep. What I have not yet mentioned, it was a non-stick pot.
Oh dear.
Boiled it dry and damn near killed all of us.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh my God.
You mentioned coffee, which brings to mind something that I go to this coffee shop for game night every week. We play some really fun board games, but there's this one guy, you know how when people in coffee shops, if they're making coffee, and I mean like they brew for just one cup, there's this one thing they do, and I don't know why they do it, where they take this part of the machine and just bang it on the counter. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, when they're getting the disc out of the espresso.
I've
thing.
never done it. I don't know exactly what they're doing. Now, I don't know if you can hear this through my microphone, but there was one guy working at the coffee shop where when he would bang it on the counter, he would do it like this, right? And for the longest time, I was like, that's the theme to the Terminator, isn't it? And so we finally, like after like a month, a bunch of us just went up to him and asked him, that's what you're doing, right? And he's like, yeah.
That's something I do. Just
That'd be brilliant.
see if anyone noticed.
That is so hipster of you.
I'm just gonna bash out the coffee machine.
Yeah. Just see who gets the reference. That's very, very hipster of you.
Yeah. Oh, it's always fun to see who gets references. Like, okay, I play this virtual reality game called Spark that is so much fun. It looks like a cross between dodgeball and racquetball set in the Tron universe is what it looks like. It's so much fun. And there was this one guy where I pop into one of the arenas and I see a guy's username is Halfdan. And I was like, oh, cool, like Halfdan the Black from Eric the Viking. And he goes, oh my gosh, you're the only person to ever get that reference. Everyone keeps asking me why I'm half of a Dan.
Jeez.
We became like instant friends because I knew that obscure ass reference. And by the way, if you haven't seen Eric the Viking, shame on you. It's a great movie. Go watch it. It's got like half of Monty Python in it and so many famous British actors. It's a blast and you got to see it. But John Cleese's character was Halfdan the Black, this like sort of like deadpan but evil as hell Viking dude, and it's so much fun. And you got
What's it called?
Eric the Viking.
Eric the Viking.
Isn't
Yes.
that the one where they take the trip to Valhalla and he has to find that girl who died in war and covered for him by saying, yeah, he raped me from over there with his clothes on.
Right. Yes, that was the movie, and it was so.
Yeah.
My favorite is when they're like getting into the Viking boat and they're going to start rowing towards Valhalla, and they're trying to decide like where everyone should sit. Because, like, you can't put him next to his dad. They'll argue the whole way. And like, okay, move you over here and you over here and you over here. And then they're like, but now you've got all the strong ones on one side. We'll be rowing in a circle. And it's like, okay, you sit over here and you sit over here and you sit over here. And then it's like, well, now you've got all the ones with beards on one side and the mustaches on the other. And he's like, it doesn't matter. Let's just go. Oh, it's a brilliant movie. It's so much
Sounds a bit
fun.
like trying to organise the table for me Dungeons and Dragons night.
Yeah.
That's not right. Yeah, actually.
We go around to the place. We're all trying to. We generally have whoever's DMing at one end, so they can see and talk to everyone. And then along the sides, at the moment we've got 5 people. So along the sides of the table, there'll be 2 on either side. The problem is no one wants to sit next to or across from Dave.
Sit next to me. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that.
Well, you see, the problem is Dave's a dickhead. So if you sit across from Dave, you'll find yourself playing involuntary footsie. If you sit next to Dave, you will find yourself, you will find yourself in an altercation with Dave.
Well, okay, I will admit there's this one really bratty thing I do at my game nights is whenever we get a game where everyone's like little piece is a different color, I will always snag blue. The problem is that blue is also Amber's favorite color, just like it is for me. And there have been times when we've been like, no, blue is mine. So yeah, I admit that's the bratty thing I do at game night.
Yeah, that's worse. That's not worse than, playing footsie and beating up your table.
Yeah. Now, I mean, okay, this may be rude, but I mean, is Dave just not aware of what he's doing? Is he trying to flirt? What's going on?
Oh, no. Dave is fully aware of what's going on.
Okay, but why does he do it?
Because everyone knows that Dave's a dickhead.
Okay.
And that's part of the fun of the session, is that Dave's a dickhead.
I see.
Just the problem is...
So the next time he plays footsie, someone has to kick him in the balls.
Well, but why did he choose footsie as the way of being a dickhead? Is my question.
That's not the only way. That's just the primary if you're opposite.
Okay, I'm still curious.
Now, the problem is, if you kick him in the balls, that escalates. So
Does he flip the table?
So
not as yet. Although one person in a game with him has flipped the table. And
I somehow feel they were likely justified.
Strangely enough, it wasn't actually his fault, or at least not immediately directly his fault. Though I'm certain he was involved.
No doubt.
Somehow they managed to really piss this guy who was DMing off by how the campaign was going, and then I remember what it was. They were he was really trying to kill one player's character, the DM, not Dave. The DM was really trying to kill one player's character because everyone else's characters had died, and now this one character was really over leveled.
Okay.
So they were trying to just focus everything on this one player's character, and then I said, right, so everyone's retreated. This character stayed there and is down. So then Dave comes over and just goes, "Yeah, I'll kill my character to resurrect theirs, whatever." Goes, what? Why? He's like, well, I don't know. I'm like a selfless save this person character. And the person just flipped the table and left.
I mean, that reminds me of when I was still living in Seattle. I had a Halo night with a bunch of folks, and at one point, everyone was just like sick of this one person. They're like, we are going to focus. Like, it doesn't matter what team we're on. We're all going to kill you. But like they had discussed it in private, and so this one player didn't know it, that they were trying to do that, and was so good at the game that it was just not apparent that's what was happening.
Oh my God!
You know, at the end, you were all trying to kill me. Really?
Oh my gosh! You know what that reminds me of? The Big Bang Theory, when she goes and plays. I don't know what, it might have been Halo actually, with the guys, and she keeps killing Sheldon, and he's like, "You're not doing it right." Oh, wait, just 1 second. Throws him a grenade. Look, it's raining Sheldon.
It's funny you mentioned. I mean, I'm rewatching The Big Bang Theory right now, and I like saw that episode like 2 days ago. So yeah.
I feel that. That's awesome. I really like that show, even though I occasionally want to punch Sheldon in the head.
Well, I mean, I have so many friends who are like, this is just a minstrel show for nerds. They're just making fun of nerds and geeks. I'm like, yeah, they are, but most shows are making fun of somebody. And in this particular case, I mean, I watch it because I know those people. Like not specifically know them, but in my life, I've known enough extraordinarily geeky, cosplaying, sci-fi loving nerd bags, and have been one of those my own darn self, that I'm like, this is a fun show. I was actually having an argument with somebody about like when they change a character, like in the Supergirl show that they had, they made, for some reason, like they took Jimmy Olsen, who's supposed to be super nerdy and white. They made him like tall and handsome and suave and black. And I'm like, why would you do that? Give him another name so that it's not Jimmy Olsen, because he's an amazingly fun character, but just don't call him
He just isn't Jimmy Olsen.
Right. Yeah, why don't they just create a new character? Why do they have to do that?
But I mean, the point is that like one of my friends who happens to be black was like, but we need a hero who looks like me. And I'm like, I don't disagree, but they don't have to make Jimmy Olsen that guy. Right?
Jimmy Olsen is not a hero. Like, not really.
But for me, that's what the Big Bang Theory is like, where I'm like, now we have protagonists that I can identify with because they're complete nerd bags.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Casey, hello.
I've actually said at times on the Big Bang scale, I fall somewhere between Leonard and Stewart.
Well, but I think all of the characters fall between Leonard and Stewart.
I'm hoping, well, yeah. It's, as long as you're not Howard.
Yeah, Howard's a little full of himself.
He's a little sleazy.
Yeah.
He's so creepy. I feel like, ugh. I understand when Penny's like, I have been informed that you have feelings, and apparently I have hurt them.
But of course, Howard tries to like tongue kiss her immediately because he's like, oh my gosh, someone's relating to me, someone's being nice to me, and she's a chick. Obviously, she's coming on to me.
Yeah, so, exactly. I'm like, no.
You know, I gotta say, I really, really, really hate Amy. I just, there's something about her that just drives me up the wall. I hate her.
Same.
I like her as the weird dynamic she has as Sheldon's girlfriend. Like, I like that they contrived it and the way they met, and, you know, there will be no contact up to it, including, Curtis, would you like a beverage? Tepid water, please. You know,
I think part of it is the way she forced herself as Penny's best friend. I think some of
that
that
was creepy.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was super creepy.
Oh, the painting and they're naked underneath.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, that was awkward.
Yeah.
Incredibly
And
awkward.
I mean, it took a while for Penny to grow on me too, but she did. She managed it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and okay, why can't I remember her name now? Howard's wife.
Bernadette.
Yes, thank you. When she first showed up, her voice was not quite so high pitched, and I liked her better. I mean, just something about that high pitched, squeaky voice. For that matter, Sheldon didn't always go falsetto at some point in every sentence when the show was new, and I liked him better for that too. There's just something about squeaky voices that makes someone punchable. I mean, I actually like Howard's mother better vocally, just because. Well, also it doesn't hurt that my mom's side of the family is Jewish. My dad's side of the family is Italian. I have plenty of relatives who sound like that. So
Fair. I think the occasional impersonations of Howard's mother affected Bernadette's voice performance, and maybe she went more squeaky so that when she got all upset, she could be like, Howard! And basically turn into his mother vocally, and there would be that contrast. But yeah.
But that doesn't explain Sheldon. Like, I mean, if you watch the most recent season or even just a later season of The Big Bang Theory, and then immediately watch season 1, and you notice the complete and utter difference in the way Sheldon speaks, it's really strange. It's like watching Malcolm in the Middle and getting to the very end when they're teenagers, and then immediately watching season 1, and you're like, my gosh, they're so different.
But at least they were going through puberty, so there's some justification
sure.
for that.
Sheldon doesn't have that excuse. That's the thing. Sheldon does not have that excuse.
No, he does not.
I have to say, I grew up in a community that was like 85% Jewish. So, like, Howard's mother was the mother of half of the people I knew.
And, it took me a while to realize it because, like I say, my mom's side of the family is Jewish. The way that my mom is so paranoid about my safety. Like the number of times she's called me just to find out if I'm okay. And I'm just like, you're smothering me. There is not an S in front of mother. Stop it.
Well, there can be.
Yeah. I don't think you can argue moms into that. They're there to right wrongs and triumph over evil.
And anyone who knows me knows that I can be awfully blunt to a fault. And I have very much called my mother out for it many times in no uncertain terms. I don't know if I've ever made her cry after she's hung up, but there have been times when I've told her off in ways you can't ignore. I don't know.
I wish I could have done that to the FSB, but unfortunately.
Right?
I've never have got this idea that you could be blunt.
Never.
No.
Blunt, doesn't happen.
Complete shock.
But you're always so gentle and tactful in the YouTubes.
It's really, it's surprising with that delicate, sweet, soft-spoken mannerism to ever imagine that she could be blunt.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not that I have no filter. I just don't tolerate idiots well.
Yeah, this is bringing up memories of some of your old videos with like "Missed the Mark."
Oh, yeah. I mean, why he chose that username? I mean, how do you
He pretty much made a parody of himself.
How do you not know that's going to get you teased? How do you know? Or how do you not know? I mean, like missing the mark. Yeah, you did. I mean, everyone and their hamster says that to him. And he's like, no, I meant this, I meant this. And then I'm like, what's wrong with you? Obviously, I don't know.
This is the thing. If one person misunderstands you, maybe it's them. But if everyone is getting X from what you said and you meant Y, you did not communicate well. You need to change what you said.
Well, I mean, it's something I posted on both Facebook and Twitter a couple of days ago. I'm like, how many people have to tell you that you're a butt munch before you start to think, gee, maybe I am a bit of a wank? I mean, how many people have to tell you that you are a problem before you realize, yeah, I guess maybe I am?
All
I
of
wonder
them.
who you could have been referring to.
Gee,
No
I
idea.
Yeah, it probably doesn't help that when I ended that particular tweet, I was like asking for someone I absolutely can't stand. Yeah. Oh, don't get me started. Anyway.
See, this is why, like, I'm just starting with the YouTube community. I've got a lot of friends on Twitter, and I've used it to sort of start perfecting my arguments a little bit, finding my own voice, because obviously I listen to a lot of people, a lot of Hitchens. Actually, best detox for evangelicalism when you break out 3 months of listening to nothing but Christopher Hitchens.
Oh yeah, I love him dearly, and I wasn't even an evangelical.
Oh yeah.
Well, I say it a lot. I'm still pissed off with Christopher Hitchens, though. You don't die on my birthday, bitch. But yeah, worst birthday present ever, Hitchens.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually more sad at the realization that he was really gone and was not immortal than when I realized I was mortal. It tells you something about my priorities.
That's a doozy to come to terms with.
Yeah, watching the Hitchens debates and everything was wonderful, as long as you remembered that he was not there to convey any theological information or anything. And he was just there, number one, to rant, and number two, to sell books, which is just fine.
Right.
And he did it so well. He was a great orator. I miss that very, very. And not only with the anti-theism. I mean, you listen to him on some of the other things. He was on a IQ squared debate. Oh, what was it now?
The Catholic Church is a force for good in the world.
Oh yeah.
I loved that one absolutely. With Anayakan and Ann Widdecombe and Stephen
Fry.
But Hitch did one. Resolved freedom of speech necessarily includes
freedom to offend, or
yes, freedom to offend. That's it. And God, he was so damn good in that one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I am not in the least surprised.
Of course, that was Hitchens all the way. He would.
That's kind of the quote that I go to when I'm discussing that issue.
Mm-hmm. I always. It's funny because there were two moments that were the spur from my questioning portion of my deconversion to my actually being able to conceive that I might genuinely be completely wrong. And I was still shy of listening to atheists, and certainly big name ones. But in some compilation or other, probably an Agaton Fund compilation of something, I saw two clips. And one of them was Richard Dawkins debating with, it wasn't Smuley, but I can't remember. But he was debating with someone who was talking about how religion had social utility and charities. And he just
for fuck's sake, it wouldn't be.
He got to the end of himself, and he's like, what does this have to do with whether or not religion is true? I care if it's true. And, the part of my brain was going, if I have the truth, why is he the one saying that he cares about the truth? And the other moment was Christopher Hitchens talking about an unpopular opinion of his that probably had something to do with Iraq. And he said, I knew I wasn't going to get any applause for that. And then the audience, all obligatory. He's like, no, stop. No, I was not asking for applause. You mistake me. My own opinion is enough for me.
Okay. And when you were searching for the name, you wouldn't be thinking of David Wolpe, would you?
Yes.
Yeah. He was always the social utility and the mm-hmm.
Yep. That would have been it. Rabbi Wolfe.
Okay,
You know,
Morton.
that's actually something like when I make my videos, I usually go after Christians. And mostly that's because that's what's out there. I mean, every now and then I will make a video about like a Muslim or something because they said something that pissed me off. But usually when I go after Christians, I'll get a Christian who says, how come you only go after Christians? Why don't you go after Muslims? Why don't you go after Jews? And I realize I almost never make a video about Judaism. And the main reason is because they're not usually making videos saying chowder-headed things. In fact, most of the Jews I know keep it to themselves, which is what I want. You know, I mean, like the only time I ever find myself saying, okay, I got to talk about Judaism is like the whole circumcision thing. Where it's like, you know, I honestly think there ought to be a law that says you're not allowed to be circumcised until you're legally an adult and can choose it for yourself.
Absolutely. Stop cutting up the genitals for kids.
It's like I have very little issue with Jewish people except not keeping their stores open on Saturdays.
Well, the big difference is
My
that
aunt did that.
Just don't go into
Jews
Squirrel
don't
Hill, that's all.
proselytize. They don't try to recruit people into their religion. If you want to join, it's a real effort.
Yes.
It's hard to get
into it.
And I've said so many times, I'm going to broken record here, is that when they can share and play nicely with the other kids, I'll stop talking about religion. And and that basically describes Jewish people, is they do tend to play nicely with the other kids.
The only thing is there are sects of Judaism that are very problematic. The sexual assault problems with the Catholic Church, it's just as bad in some of the Orthodox Jewish communities.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, and some things have come out about that in the last few years. They're extremely insular and they're extremely abusive in some of those cases. But those groups tend to isolate, for one, and their bad political aims are focused around Israel and the Holy Land and kicking out all the, you know, and those are like, of the grand scheme of Judaism, that is a small focused group that has very much its own agenda, but they're not trying to bring in the rest of the world in the way that the Armageddon lobby is, for example.
Okay, I will admit that when I say that I have no problem with Jewish people, I generally mean the ones in the U.S. Don't get me started on Israel. That's
I know. I make the connection only because of the Orthodox Jews, and again, like I said, that's a small community within the larger. They can become very isolated. It's my only problems with Judaism are more historical. That they kept the God of Abraham alive, and that two of the most corrupt, violent religions that have, you know, been responsible for so much death and misery in the world are, you know, branches off that root.
Yes.
And so historically, I hold them to some account for that. But I also see them as very much a battered wife. I mean, if you read the Old Testament, it's all, oh, I didn't keep my word because you sinned. It was your sin. Now you're all going to suffer. It was all, remember when I took you out of Egypt? Well, as it happens, he never did take them out of Egypt. But it's like an abusive spouse who's like, remember that one time I brought you flowers? How dare you burn my meal? Mm-hmm. And then they do, or whatever. So
there are two things that I would totally miss if there was no Judaism. Okay, like I say, my mom's side of the family is Jewish, so getting both Christmas and Hanukkah presents, I would have missed that. That was awesome.
That's great.
Number two, challah bread. I love challah bread.
I love challah bread, and that's all cultures must share their food because that makes us all happy, right?
It's kind of like how I say, okay, it's hard to condemn Mormons because they gave us Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
You know, it's the same sort of thing where it's like I don't really care for your religion very much, but there's these other things that you did. So, yeah, I don't know.
I can understand that feeling.
I'm being mildly flippant right now, but it's true. I would miss challah bread, Battlestar Galactica, and Hanukkah presents.
Presents never go amiss.
There you go. Well, it depends on what they give you.
It wasn't the group that gave it to you. It was just a few individuals that happened to be part of that group.
Well, sure, but they are space Mormons. So without the guy being Mormon, we may never have gotten the show.
It affected the ideology, in other words.
I'd say the ideology affected the show, but okay.
Yeah, it was affected by the ideology. Yeah, bad phrasing on my part. But yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean, granted, we also never would have gotten Battlestar Galactica if it hadn't been for Star Wars. So, I mean, because seriously, after Star Wars came out, the number of imitators that tried to make their own like Star Warsy thing. Like, I mean, Battle Beyond the Stars, which was basically a sci-fi remake of Seven Samurai, that never would have happened without Star Wars. You know, Battlestar Galactica wouldn't have happened. Star Chaser: The Legend of Orin, which is such a ripoff of Star Wars. I mean, almost down to the character a ripoff, but it's animated and it's a lot of fun. I love the theme song. That never would have happened, and so many others. It's just so it's hard to necessarily say, well, yay Mormons because Battlestar Galactica. You got to kind of say, you know, them and Star Wars. So yeah,
Fair enough. It's hard to draw.
Soft Girl, I've never actually had a brisket. I hear it mentioned in The Big Bang Theory a lot. I don't even really know what it is.
Good.
I don't even really know what it is.
It's the front chest part of a cow. So like kind of where it looks like their chest curves into the stomach.
Okay.
So it's that part like right on the front. And it's considered clean because it's from the front end of the cow. Like basically Jewish people can have anything from the middle to the front, but nothing from the middle to the back.
Well, but I mean, I got the impression though that making a brisket wasn't just here's some meat, that there was more to it than that.
Yeah,
So
they have different recipes.
I don't know. I'm just curious. Like someday I want to try it just to know.
It's good.
So what they do,
It's
they
really
cut
good.
the cow in half and just go, right, we don't like that bit.
Right, yeah, just throw away the other
Salad
half.
to the goys. Salad to the goys.
Yeah, it's slow and slow.
Actually, I've always found that kind of interesting that the parts they can't eat are where the best steaks come from, and the priests have to dispose of that when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah,
Well, they could just like sell it to the goyim or something.
Or they could take it home.
Well,
What did I tell you? No, religion doesn't want you to have any pleasure unless they said it was okay. It's so good.
So it's so weird. Like there's this one guy, I responded to him once where it's like he has some sort of wacky Tourette's syndrome, where in the middle of every sentence, he would just say something like praise to Jesus and God, like constantly. It was just this sort of like verbal tick he had. Every like 5 words, he'd have to say it. And it's so weird to think about living like that, where even if it's not that verbal tick, if it was just like absolutely everything has to come back to like those Caleb and Sophia videos. If you can see
right.
where everything is you have to please Jehovah, no matter what, the way you're having fun, this, that, and the other thing.
Actually, Islam has that down to a science, beyond even what most Christians do, because they have the more devout, and I'm not just talking about violent extremist devout, I just mean devout. Their fear is that they will die not saying Allah's name. So they have a prayer for when they wash their hands, and they have a prayer for when they rise in the morning, and they have a prayer for every daily routine habit that you have just in the course of being a human being. They have a prayer for that to keep them essentially in mindfulness, but in mindfulness of Allah. And so it's that same thing but instead of having to sort of manufacture this rip-off culture that Christianity has done, they've just embedded it in everything they do all day, every day.
Oh my goodness, there's 2 hashtag heathens.
I was wondering why she gets to clone herself.
I was mentioning the Caleb and Sophia videos, and I mentioned this in one of my own videos, is that the dad in that series has this really funky accent that like a lot of people are going, where the hell is this guy from? Because no one can figure it out. And I figured it out. I know where the dad is from. He's from Brazil. And the way
Oh,
I figured this out is because I was looking for those videos on YouTube. I couldn't find them. And so I typed in like Caleb and Sophia and found the videos translated into Portuguese sign language. And that was the key where I was going, Portuguese. Where do they speak Portuguese? Because it's not just Portugal. And I realized they speak it in South America, in Brazil. And so I looked up a bunch of Brazilian people speaking English with their accent, and it's exactly the same as the dad. And while I was searching on Google, I found a couple of forums where people were saying, I know the voice actor. Yes, he's Brazilian. And I was like, aha. But I got into this weird fight with someone on one of Telltale's videos where I mentioned that I'd figured it out. And someone said, no, he's French. And I said,
no, he's not.
And I was like, but I have all this evidence of him being from Brazil, including people who actually know the voice actor. Why should I believe you that he's French? Give me your evidence. And they didn't do it. And what they did instead, they said, you do realize the character's not a real guy, right? And I'm like, we're talking about his accent, not the character. The real guy, where's his accent from? Like they had tried to turn the argument into something I'd never said in a million years. It was the stupidest fight ever. But it's from Brazil.
I think Jehovah's Witnesses sort of instinctively are trained to do that as well, is to never concede a point to someone who is not a witness.
I don't think this was a Jehovah's Witness. I think this was just an idiot atheist. But
could have been an idiot, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was weird. It's weird the way some people dig in their heels when they know they're wrong and they have to prove it. Like they have to prove their point even though it's wrong.
And they can't even say, oh, maybe I'm wrong, I'll look into it more. Like, not a full admission, just a kind of I'll go check it out. No. Can't have that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like, and all I did was ask for evidence of their point, and they didn't provide.
Well, that's that deeply religious mindset that once they've come to a conclusion, it can't be questioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It really is.
Oh, boy, yeah.
I should probably think seriously about food. It is noon, and I don't know.
This noon.
But the last time I left one of these chats, it went for like 5, maybe 8 hours or something, and I don't, and I'm like, I'm only here an hour, and that stinks. So I don't know. Part of me doesn't want to go get food. Although again, I did talk to one of my friends from the atheism booth, and we might be doing laser tag later today, so I should have some fuel.
That would be a good idea. You wouldn't want to run out of gas. Definitely.
But I don't want to leave. This is fun. Maybe I'll leave and come back. I don't know.
Oh man. Well, I love having you here, Kate. Seriously, really and truly, you're a fun person to have around.
In California, you don't have any services that'll deliver food to your desk?
Well, we do, but I don't want to spend that cash. Although it's kind of weird though. Like I spent a really, really, really long time being, if not poor, at least I didn't have the money for like just spending it on frivolity and fun. Mm-hmm. Like I might go to the club twice a month or some shit, right? And so now I'm actually making a reasonable amount of money to where I do have a surplus at the end of every month. And I'm only doing that because I don't pay rent. If I had to pay rent, I'd be destitute, right? But the point is that I am so trained to not spend money that it's taken me a long time to realize that I can go out and buy myself a present or a meal every now and then. I keep forgetting that I can do that. And that's
I know that feeling.
Mm-hmm. And so I suppose I could have food delivered, but I keep forgetting that I'm not limited to making food at home. I keep forgetting that.
It's a hard like habit to break, especially when you're either raised that way or you become that way because of like a fixed income or something.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've been missing my friends in Seattle a lot. And part of me has been wanting to move back, even though the weather keeps killing me while I'm there. But I was just talking to someone like a friend of mine from Seattle came to visit, not me, he was just visiting San Diego. We went out for coffee because he was there. And he mentioned that I've been using the wrong airline, because Delta charges out the ass to get from Seattle to San Diego and back and all of that. But Alaska Airlines, you can do a round tripper for like under $200. And so I'm starting to think I should start visiting my friends in Seattle like once every couple of months. But part of my brain thinks, but that's still a lot of money, and it's not anymore. And I like some part of me, I feel like I'm indoctrinated to not spend money, except I did it to myself.
That's what poverty does.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it is.
I know what you mean. I spent most of my life just in survival mode, just trying to get enough through the month.
I'm still poor.
Yeah. I grew
being
up.
on the. Go ahead.
I grew up reasonably well off. Not Donald Trump territory or anything, but the slimy bastards had a store, had a family business, and they did pretty well with it. And I was not lacking for stuff when I was growing up, and things changed a lot when I went on Social Security. Number one, spending the money, that changed because I didn't have it. Another thing that changed was my political stance. I was a lot more Republican when I didn't worry about where my next meal was going to come from.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's
We
the
see that a lot.
politicians now that are proposing, I forget what they call it, but there was a sci-fi story where they called it the Basic Living Stipend, or BLS, where the government just gives you some money.
Oh,
and that's
yes,
it.
that one.
Like just enough to maintain bare survival.
Well, that's the thing, though.
The minimum basic wage.
There you go. But the way they describe it is $1,000 a month just from the government will give you $1,000 a month. If I'm getting $1,000 a month on top of my YouTube income, on top of my Patreon, I'd be fucking rich. You have no idea.
Yep.
Right? Because my expenses are so low because I'm not paying rent. It would be insane how much money I'd have. And I'd still never spend it because I don't think I can. It's crazy.
It's not a bad idea to have a savings account and sort of pay your savings first.
Okay.
But I have a question. I have a question about Patreon.
I need to save my stuff.
What about
because I'm
Patreon?
starving.
Like I'm in a interesting transitional place in my life, and I would really love to turn YouTube into something where I could have a Patreon. Obviously, I just have one freaking video out that's jumping the gun, but I'm looking ahead in the longer term, and I want to kind of know what would be the best way to move towards that. What are kind of like the marks where you would consider that is time to, look ahead and maybe set that up?
Well,
Just
I have
ask.
a Patreon,
That's
and I
it.
don't have
Just
300 subs yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can
there's
have a Patreon at any point.
no
Yeah,
minimum. Go
I
go
really
for
just
it
got
right
started
away.
myself, and I've had several people telling me that I should set up a Patreon right away. So
Really?
I set one up. I've set one up, and last night I was working on making title cards for my next video. So I'm not going to push it, but I put the Patreon link on the title card.
I mean, it might take you like a couple of months to get beyond $5, but seriously, there is no reason to not start it immediately.
Yeah.
No reason at all.
Okay. All right. No, and I appreciate that. I've had some wonderful people who are really, very emotionally supportive, and I think would probably, if it was possible, be financially supportive as well. But, I just don't want to be in like, hi, everyone, I'm here. Give me all your money. And
I mean,
I know.
Like I have to. I mean, I'm reminding myself all the time. These people don't owe me anything.
No, not at all.
No, I mean, this is pure generosity. And so whenever somebody decides I'm going to be a patron, I make sure to thank the shit out of them.
Oh,
Seriously.
hell yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's so wonderful that people are willing to be generous like that. And it's I mean, there's times where I'm like, what, me? Seriously? You're doing that for me? Oh my gosh, I don't deserve it. But it's at the same time, it's just wonderful to get it. And I have to make sure I never, ever take it for granted. Ever.
Well,
Like I've had a few people say, look, my income has just dropped for whatever reason, and I have to not be your patron anymore. I'm sorry. And I'm like, don't, no.
No,
You
yeah.
owe me nothing. You owe me nothing, and I appreciate what you've done for me.
Absolutely.
Well, and one of the other points that was made to me a couple times was that you should have it in there because, you know, like 2-3 years from now, if somebody's watching your old videos, the link should be there.
Fair enough.
Oh, yes,
Fair
yes.
enough.
Yeah, that was a good point.
Actually, I should probably go back and do that. I mean,
I just got to make my escape though, everyone, because I need to go get some dinner.
Oh yeah, it's not exactly noon for you, is it?
8:20.
No, it is not. Lovely chatting to everyone again.
Great having you
Lovely
here,
back there.
Silas.
I will hope to speak to you all again soon, but I must make my escape.
Adieu.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
But yeah, I mean, and one of the things that I like to do, I mean, you know, I animate. At the end of my videos, I put the animated begathon for Patreon because I figure,
I
you
love
know,
that.
I mean, I'm just like, if people are going to give me something, they should get something. And so if I'm going to ask, I might as well make it entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love that you do that and that you do like different animations for it. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I need to come up with a new one because I've been using like the same 5 or 6 for a while now. And I mean, I did put out a couple that are sort of story based where it's more than just please donate. And those take forever, but I should do like a short, like a sting, a bumper, whatever you want to call it, that short little one. I should make new ones.
Have you ever
Although
thought...
that one where the subscribe bar keeps hitting her over the head's pretty good.
When I came up with that, I was like, yeah, oh, I'm so doing this. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Or,
But actually, those are the subscribe ones. I have like 12 or 13 of those. It's the Patreons I need new ones for.
Okay. I'm wondering, would something be too much work for you the way... Sort of like the way Logic did, where you would have an ongoing story from episode to episode. If you would have
Oh, I
story
love
like
that
that.
where he's Satan and his brother, and then he's married to Eve, and then he dies, and he goes to. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
I must have subscribed to Logic after he was doing that. I don't remember that at all.
Some of those videos you can't actually see anymore. Some of them are really, really old. But if you ever go and watch John Pendleton and, you know, Hello, I'm a Scientist, and then Science in the 12th Century, there's this theme running through it. You can't see the initial ones where he was married to Eve, but when part of it, he has a heart attack from the okay, first he kills God, and then he gets arrested, and then he breaks out with Key Chicken, and then he has a heart attack from John Pendleton's stupidity, and then goes to heaven and is met by an alien, and then he decides to go down to hell because at least God can visit there, but Lucifer can't visit him up there, and he can't deal with the stupid fundies anymore. And then he's down in a cathedral with his brother Lucifer, and he's like, hey, what's up? You know, what's with the cathedral? He's like, I'm a Christian. What? You know, I believe in the salvation of the human race through the sacrificial death of Jesus Christ. Bullshit. And he's like, okay, fine. Look, Jesus is a really shitty poker player, and he'll only play with Christians. And it's like, okay, that's the best reason I've ever heard to become a Christian.
Speaking of thanking people, I just got an email saying #Heathen has become a patron. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yay, yay.
That was beyond unexpected, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I wanted to make sure because I've just started doing like Patreon in the smaller amounts like that. So I was like, I don't think I'm a patron of yours yet. So,
Well, I mean, along those lines, just speaking of that sort of thing, Patreon started out where you just did it like per video or per
Mhm.
whatever bit of
Yes.
art, and now they have it so that you can do it like just as a monthly thing. And I still have it set up so that it's like for every video, because if I don't make a video in a month, I like, and like if I take a break, no one should have to pay me for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's probably how I would have it too.
I just hope people realize, I mean, you can be technically a monthly patron because you can limit how, like, if I go nuts and make 200 videos in a month, you don't want to pay me for all of those. Of course you don't. That would make you go broke.
Right.
So you can limit how much you want to give per month. So technically, there are some people out there who are just monthly patrons. But I feel a little bad about it because every now and then, like on other people's videos, they say, here's my $50 patron, here's my $20 patrons, all of that. And so they thank people as like different tier levels. But if I have someone who's donating like $20, but they might do it for just one video, whereas you'll have someone who's donating $5 and they'll do it for every video. And so if I thank someone as a $5 patron, it's just unfair. And so in a way, I kind of feel bad about not being able to thank people like based on how much they're contributing. But at the same time, it's not fair to them if I don't make enough videos to justify what they're giving me. So what you gonna do, you know?
It's a tough one. I mean, you could have tiers of thanks without necessarily sort of giving the numbers involved. And also like, you know, hey, you've been a patron for 6 months, you're the best. And, or I don't know.
Actually, that's a good way to think about it is how long they've been a patron. Thank you for that idea. I might have to consider that.
Okay. No, sure, anytime. But it seems like, you know, a way to thank people in all the different ways. And that's one of the things too, because like I said, I've got limited technology at the moment. I've got a Chromebook, so it's not like a full system. So I can't really do as much. I've got a stand-up computer from like, 7 years ago. I don't know if it can handle modern programs. And so I'm like, okay, there's a limited amount of cool shit I can do with what I have right now. And I also obviously, you know, I'm learning the technical stuff. I was never really a programmer or anything interesting like that.
Well, you don't have to be a programmer to do video editing, though.
No.
I mean, video editing is really simple. Cut, splice, cut, splice, cut, splice. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be awful, but the program I got just makes it really easy to do a bunch of different things.
Oh, that's good.
Well, what program are you using?
I'm using Movavi.
Don't
Okay,
know that one.
Is that one you have to pay for, or do they have a free version?
They have like a trial, but it's a one-time payment sort of thing. It's not like if you actually go with the program, you only pay the once. It's not like a subscription.
I hate how they've done the subscription thing. Like, I'd love to get an updated version of 3ds Max, but like now it's like $100 a month to use it, and I don't like the idea of like computer piracy or anything. But I'm sorely tempted now because I would cheerfully pay them like $500 to get the program, but
and then you're in.
But like $100 a month is eventually going to be way the frick too much, especially for someone who, like, I mean, technically on the most pedantic definition, I'm an amateur, right? Meaning I don't get paid like a wage. I'm not a corporation who's using this program. And so like they really ought to have a way for like just a casual hobbyist user to be able to get their program.
It would be good, and even just a bit simplified too. I was looking at, there was this one explain everything, and it was initially like $5 to get, and then when I went to look at it again, it was a $100 a year subscription, and I was like, when did this change? Like 5 minutes ago, it was not this. So
this is where I would really like to see the open source community step up to the plate, and these folks there's some pretty good programmers out there They're not all high school kids in their basements.
I don't know. I'd really like to see the open source community get medical attention.
Yeah.
Okay. But
yeah.
I mean, open.
Sorry.
Okay, well, I have to cut out of here, people.
Aw.
Have a good
I
one.
just got a call that my brother finally got home, so I have to head over there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was
Take
thinking it was
care.
kind of
Thank you for
unusual that we
everything.
were in here today.
Have fun.
But you be good. You have fun. Take care.
Yeah, this is
sweetness.
my gaming day now, so.
Okay.
Don't get
good.
run over.
Take care.
Yay, but
Okay.
Catch you like the plague.
the open source does not have to be free of charge. You know, you can actually make some money. It would not be on the code itself, of course, but it could be on services provided with it. So,
Well, and I mean, you could do like microtransactions for plugins or something, but
Yeah.
also Patreon is not just for YouTube. I mean,
Right.
they have things for writing, they have things for like comics and stuff. They have like just paintings and photographs and poetry and all kinds of wacky stuff you can have a Patreon for. So, I mean, between that and PayPal, open source can definitely be a pay thing.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, could you actually see somebody writing and charging, I don't know, say, for your 3D studio, say charging $100 for a manual?
Ooh.
Which,
Yeah.
that pisses me off. Nobody does manuals anymore.
Oh, I'm so with you. I mean, like,
Searchable PDF manual.
before I was
Yes.
allowed by my doctors to do actual exercise again, they said go for walks. I'm like, walks are boring. But then I found Pokemon Go, and it gave me a reason to walk around. And part of what made it more convenient was I got the Pokeball Plus,
What is that?
which is part of the game. Like you can use this to just make it easier. But the thing is, it did not come with a manual. So, like, figuring out how to make this thing that doesn't have anything you can type on actually pair with your phone through Bluetooth was trial and error. And realizing that it would only throw the regular Pokeballs at the Pokemon out there instead of using like the Ultra and whatever Mega Balls, and that it would only throw one. And if you failed, the monster ran away. Like that's something they don't tell you. So I had to
Oh.
figure that one out, basically by asking the community out there how the hell this thing worked. And I mean, it's the same thing with like a lot of video games out there. I mean, many of them have built-in tutorials, but they don't come with manuals. I remember a time when you would get a freaking book
Yes.
with your video games, and some games came with stuff. I mean,
I
actual
loved
stuff.
that.
Like Ultima. I don't know if you ever played the Ultima games, but they came with these cloth maps. Let me show you. Right, like I still
Nice.
have it. Maps, like it's made out of cloth. It's like a napkin that has a map on it. It's the coolest thing in the
Oh,
world.
that's awesome.
And they don't do that anymore. Like games don't come with swag.
Because I remember years ago, well, this is before PCs, but years ago when I was working on a PDP-11, and the manual for that damn thing was 3.5 feet long. It was in one of those, it had the two end plates that would fold, and then you would crank it to
Oh my
squish
God.
all the pages together.
That's
oh
awesome.
wow.
And yet everything you could ever want to know, and this is where a friend of mine came up with his 3 rules of manual reading. First, you would read the manual for what it said you could do, and then you would do it. Second, you would read the manual for what it said you could not do and try it anyway, because sometimes you got somewhere with it. And third, you read the manual for what it did not say you could not do, and you tried that. And you found things that are known as, undocumented features that way.
Easter eggs.
But this was the thing. You didn't have to trial and error, as Kate said, the whole thing. You had it out there in front of you to at least get started.
Yeah.
And I had a flight simulator. My ex bought me a Microsoft flight simulator years ago because I love P-51s, the Mustangs, the prop planes, and this actually simulated a P-51. And there was actually a manual that came with it. It was like a flight manual. It was actually like flight lessons in the damn thing. It was beautiful. I don't know that you can get that anymore. The only reason I don't have that flight simulator anymore is I can't run Windows anymore because I will not have Windows 10, and my machines are beyond what 7 and 8 can comfortably handle.
Well, the reason I don't have Windows 10 is because the old ass copy of 3ds Max that I have isn't compatible with it. It won't run it. Like I actually put it on, put Windows 10 on my machine at one point, and fortunately I had a way to roll back to 8.1. But when I put Windows 10 on there and tried to run 3ds Max and it said, we can't do this, I was like, well, fuck, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
I mean, I do want an updated OS, but I can't.
And there's going to be some trouble because Microsoft is now in the process of forcing people away from 7 and 8 by not providing updates for new hardware. And eventually, if you have to build a new machine, sorry, hon, but you're going to be up Schitt's Creek.
Well,
You're gonna have to take 10.
that's where piracy comes in, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
What am I supposed to do? If I can't get 3ds Max as a single payment, what am I supposed to do?
I know,
Right.
because, I mean, you say you're comfortable, and yes, you are, but not the extent of what they want for a monthly payment for something like 3ds Max, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
100 something else a month. That's a little bit of cash there.
I mean, okay, granted, I'm kind of paying that for my internet already. And I'm not really sure exactly how much I'm paying each month for like Netflix and Hulu and all of that. After a while, those expenses will get on top of you unless you're making a crazy amount of money a year.
It's true. It's true. And I mean, there's so many things where you really have to make a choice between, what you're going to take and not. And I do think some companies, they sort of don't understand it's become more obvious in the modern mindset where piracy has become something that people can do a lot more easily digitally, because, the hackers will get around whatever you put up. They just will. But there's the entire attitude of Patreon. It runs on people's generosity. People say, I want to support this and I can support this, so I support this. But the companies that nickel and dime people and try and squeeze as much out of you as they can and charge for every little thing, they're the ones who get pirated more than anyone, because there are a lot of people who can't afford that, and so they're like, I have no other option.
Right.
And
Well, I mean, that's another reason why I sort of stopped playing Pokemon as much, even though, now I can exercise for real. Thank you, my doctors. Is that there are some things you cannot do unless you pay money for microtransactions. After a while, your backpack for your items will fill up. After a while, the number of Pokemon you can hold on to, you can't keep them all. And so they'll charge you like $10 for a bigger backpack, basically.
Is it at least a one shot?
Like if you hop onto Steam, there's a lot of games out there that are completely free, but if you want them to be fun to play, you have to pay.
Right,
for
you have to
this little
pay.
item, that little item. So it's and after a while, you don't even realize I've spent way more than a game would have been worth back when you had to just buy the game.
Have they
You
done
know.
Yeah, there was one month where I ended up looking and I spent like $50 on microtransaction, and I was like, nope, done. I'm done.
Yeah. The Steam stuff, have they done that to Kerbal Space Program yet, or haven't you been playing lately?
I own a copy of it. I haven't played it in years.
Oh, okay, so you and I are
Just
in the
because
same.
I found it really difficult. Like if I tried to customize my spacecraft, it would crash no matter what. And I didn't know what I was doing.
Isn't
Okay.
that one like the really complex game?
It felt that way, but I don't know exactly what you mean.
There is a learning curve in the sense
Yeah,
that
that's what
you've
I
got
mean.
to learn you've got to learn the physics of the game, if you will, to build a rocket, a launch vehicle that will not fall apart as it's
Right.
rising off the launch pad. Takes a lot of learning, a lot of trial and error. And
Yeah, that's
the
what
launch
I
vehicle
meant.
that looks good is not necessarily going to fly well.
Mhm.
And when I say look good, I mean looks like something that would do well in the real world, will not do
Oh,
well in KSP. So you end up with something that looks like 2 or 3 Coke cans smashed together with a little crew compartment at the end, and it looks like crap, but at least it gets you into orbit, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
games with a huge learning curve to me aren't fun because it's supposed to
Yeah.
be fun right away.
Yeah. Now what
They need
That's why I
to.
don't.
They need. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's why I don't like playing like the super hard modes on games most of the time, like the merciless modes or the brutal modes, because I do it because I want to have fun. So, and I'm not one of those gamers that is a literal gamer and can just pick up on everything and make it really easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like those are for when you've already, like with the latest Diablo, you kind of go through the game several times. So by the time you're jumped up to some ridiculous level and you have all this high-end stuff, then you start ramping up the difficulty, and it's actually feasible.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier that I'm like rewatching The Big Bang Theory, and usually when I'm like working on something or playing a game, I like to have a movie or some music or something on while I'm doing it. But the thing is, I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4 lately, and you need to be able to hear dialogue in the game to do things like completing quests. And so I admit I've been avoiding the quests and just leveling the heck out of my character because I want to watch what I'm watching while I play. And so it's kind of, at some point I really should just say, okay, like I've finished a disc, let me go and talk to the citizens and get my quest, damn it. But at this point, like I, the second tier level quests, the ones that are supposed to be mildly difficult when you're level 10 or whatever, I'm so far past those in level that I'll probably just wipe them out right away. I mean, hell, I'm approaching level 40. So
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my fiance did a playthrough like that where he just ignored the quests and just leveled up.
Well, I mean, because it's a fun game anyway. The world is so huge, it'll take you forever to explore the entire world. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just having fun. There's something about the post-apocalypse genre that has always appealed to me. I don't know why. And so, actually, I think I do kind of know why. Is because when you're exploring, maybe you'll find like, in Fallout, they're vaults, basically fallout shelters. Something about the look of them reminds me of early space program stuff. And I think it's tapping into that part of me. It's kind of like how I was never a fan of the folk music my hippie parents loved to listen to, but I think it's because I grew up on it. That's why I love Irish drinking songs. Is because there's a commonality there. And so that commonality between like fallout shelters and early space program, I think that's why I enjoy both. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. It is really reminiscent of the early space programs.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way.
I know. I think about things way the hell too hard and way the hell too much. And that's probably why I made that connection. But
that's why we do what we do, though, really, right? We're all ridiculously, over analyzing everything so that everybody else doesn't have to.
I've explained to people what having ADD feels like, and that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, when your body is disabled, I spend a lot of time thinking, and it's probably not to my health, but yeah, I spend a lot of time in my head.
Yeah.
I can relate to that so much.
No, that's
Like the way I've often described having ADD, it's like if someone's constantly doing this, constantly, right? And the only way to make that stop is to give myself more input, which is probably why while I'm playing the game, I need a movie on at the same time.
Oh, okay.
You know, and it used to cause me so many problems in school because if we're having like, okay, it's time for everyone to sit down and read and no Walkmans, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, but
You
I
want me
can't
to read?
concentrate. How am I supposed to concentrate? And they thought that having music on would make me not concentrate. They didn't get it. But the number of times when I'm working on a project or something, and suddenly I realize my favorite song in the entire world is ending. And I didn't hear any of it because it occupied that part of myself that needs to get rid of that constant tapping, that I was able to concentrate on what I was doing, and the music was just background noise and I didn't know. But as my favorite song is ending, that's when I become aware of it. And I'm like, oh, whoops. And so the number of times I've like rewound my song 5 times just so I can listen to it.
I'd like to know how that. I'd like to know how it works that you notice your favorite song ending as it is ending. Why don't you totally skip over it and miss the entire thing?
Well, the stimulus is ending. That's why.
Okay.
That makes sense.
The extra input is ending, and I'm like, oh, whoops. So
Now,
yeah.
do you get the hyper focus with that? Like my fiance has ADHD, and he'll just hyper focus on one thing, and like nothing else can matter. Like the world could be exploding, and he would just be like, "Nope, I gotta do this one thing."
You don't even notice.
Much. That one doesn't happen to me as much.
Okay.
I used to be able to hyper focus when I was in school. Now I've been sick and I've been on some medication that has changed how my concentration works because everything has to affect everything. And so I find it far more difficult to read, whereas before I could read everything endlessly for hours. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the dealing with all the screens psychologically, blah, 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 did something with that too. But I ended up putting on a lot of audiobooks and things like that. And I'll do that too, where I'll play like, Skyrim or something. And then, but I'll have, you know, an audiobook or a lecture or something like that going on in the side, and sort of this split attention. Doing something with my hands helps me almost to absorb what I'm listening to more. It's a bit reverse what you're talking about, but the same kind of idea where part of your low level consciousness is just kept busy so that you could really focus on the one thing.
Huh.
Yeah, and I mean, when I'm not having something stimulating my hearing, there's a song in my head constantly. And I mean constantly. It's like earworms all the time.
Wow.
I can't help it. It's like if someone normal lived in my head, they'd go insane. I'm sure. You know.
I believe you.
Yeah. Man, there was this song that was in my head for days and I couldn't get rid of it. And the weird thing is I have no idea where I ever heard of it. Like I was listening to my playlist on my phone, and then that song popped up and I was like, I don't recognize this at all. Where did this come from? Did I hear it in a movie somewhere? Was someone playing it in like a vendor booth at some venue I went to? What happened? Where did this come from? But after I turned off, shuffle mode and turned off my phone entirely, it stayed in my head for literally like 3-4 days. I could not get rid of it. So, yeah, it's weird that I'm as functional as I am sometimes.
Well, you also learn coping mechanisms. Like Greg has several different coping mechanisms to deal with his ADHD to conform to the world around him.
Anyway, I think I really am going to get lunch this time. So
I was honestly just thinking the same thing. I love you all, but I am so hungry, and my cats are going to kill me and eat my face.
I am so happy that you that you stuck around, Lilith. It's great having you around.
It's been so much fun.
You.
It was great meeting you too.
Have
I
fun.
hope you stick around in some of the side chats later on and for shows in future if you can
Oh,
manage it.
sure. Yeah. Hey, be in touch. I'm still figuring out my YouTube messaging, but I'm on Twitter all the time, every other day at least. So,
Oh,
I'm
yay.
always.
This is a very good thing.
Yes, yes. I love my Twitter babies. So yeah, absolutely. Be in touch anytime. If you want me to do things, I'm always game whenever I can make it happen with, life and such things that one must unfortunately continue with. So
Yeah.
Right.
all right.
So,
So anyway, thank you so much, Dan. Thank you everyone. It was lovely to meet you all, and I'm going to sign off and go make myself some food.
okay. Bon
Have
appetit.
fun.
Thank you so much.
Bye
Goodbye.
bye. And okay, there goes there. And let's see. Then there were
Please.
3. Okay, did
Kate's image is frozen.
Kate? Did you take off?
I think she might have.
Either that or froze or something. There she went.
Oh.
Okay. Alrighty then. I don't know. Are you having things to do as well, Casey? Or
Probably soon, but
okay. Yeah, because let's see. We've got half a dozen watching now, and we are 2 of them, right?
yes, I'm in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I suppose we could ratchet it down as far if you didn't mind and everything else like that, and
No, that's okay.
basically take it from there. And whoever's left in the side chat, thank you guys for coming by. Seriously, and thank you for Casey for being here. And okay, as that goes. Why don't we all get our breakfasts or lunches or dinners or midnight snacks as far as that goes? And thanks a lot, troops. See you on the other side.